Hello everyone. Hello Jay sir. Am I audible?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rahul.
Yes.
You're audible, yeah.
Let's wait for a few more minutes before we start. Hello Rishi sir.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. We'll wait for 2 more minutes, then we'll start. Hello, everyone. Gyanashekar sir, I request you to please accept the panelist request. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Gyanashekar sir, I request you to please accept the panelist request. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we can start now. Yeah. Firstly, thanks everyone for joining in today. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rahul. I'm part of the growth team at Dun. Thank you for taking out your time and joining us for today's webinar. Welcome to today's webinar on Ask Anything About Commodities session 2. We received tremendous response for our previous session. This is one of our first kind webinar in India where we are giving the users a chance to get all their queries on commodities solved live from top experts. Introducing our guest panelists for today, Jai Gupta sir. Jai Gupta is our own founder, and I am Ahmedabad graduate. He has an extensive experience into commodities, equities, and currency market. He is a co-founder and CEO of Dhan. Jai sir has been in securities markets for over 18 years and led the digital broking initiatives at India Bulls. We welcome also Rishi Nathani sir. Rishi Nathani sir is a chief business officer at MCX. He is a commerce graduate, a certified financial planner, and an alumnus of IIM Kozhikode. He has over 25 years of rich and diverse experience across the financial service domain, from equity, commodity, currency, and insurance broking, financial planning, training, wealth, and portfolio management to the exchange business. Prior to joining MCX, he has held CXO level positions in various financial service companies and exchanges. We also welcome Gyanashekar sir today. Gyanashekar sir is a veteran in the commodity markets. He has been tracking commodity markets and working with organizations exposed to commodity price risk much before the advent of MCX. Gyanshekar's views are much sought after, and he has been featured as an expert market commentator on television, print, and electronic media. He writes a weekly column on gold, palm oil, and cotton in the Hindu Business Line and a blog on commodities and currencies for the Economic Times. Welcome, everyone. Over to you, Jai sir.
Yeah, hi everyone. Just as it was requested in the last webinar, we'll try to use more of Hindi here. So सबका स्वागत है इस वेबिनार में. I think last webinar में हमारा काफी अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स रहा और जो क्वेश्चंस आए यूजर्स और ऑडियंस के तरफ से वो बहुत इंसाइटफुल थे. तो अगेन कंटिन्यूइंग विद द ट्रेंड, आज हम लोग फिर से उसका एक सेकेंड पार्ट कर रहे हैं सीरीज का, और ये फोर्टनाइटली इवेंट है जो अब हर 15 दिन में होगा. तो जो भी कमोडिटीज रिलेटेड डाउट है किसी ट्रेडर को, या कोई कमोडिटीज में अपना ट्रेडिंग या कैरियर बिगिन करना चाहता है, सो आपके लिए एक बहुत अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म या माध्यम है जहाँ पे आप हमसे क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकते हैं और हम ट्राई करेंगे कि आपके जितने भी क्वेरीज हैं उनका एक आंसर आपको प्रोवाइड कर पाए. So beginning with Rishi and Gyanashekar, last 1 week बहुत eventful रहा commodities के लिए. In fact, if anybody who is tracking financial markets, उनके लिए अब ऐसा हो गया है कि commodities और currency को समझना बहुत जरूरी है अगर आप actually में पैसे बनाना चाहते हो कोई भी asset class में, चाहे वो equities क्यों ना हो. जो सब चीज चल रहा है, रशिया, यूक्रेन, चाइना, ताइवान और जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशन, इन्फ्लेशन, इंटरेस्ट रेट हाइक, आरबीआई ने इंटरेस्ट रेट हाइक किया, पाउंड में जो हो रहा है, राइट, डॉलर इंडेक्स में जो यहाँ पे वोलेटिलिटी देखने को मिल रहा है, अगर आपके पास अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है कमोडिटीज करेंसी का, सो आपके लिए इक्विटीज में भी यहाँ पे बेट लेना बहुत टफ है, राइट. सो व्हाट डू यू से ऋषि ऑन दिस, यू नो, क्या आपको लग रहा है कि लास्ट 1 वीक जो हुआ, इट वाज वेरी इवेंटफुल. व्हाट्स योर थॉट ऑन दैट?
See, the point is that commodities are the basis or underlying for any economic activity. So if you trading stock markets also, at the end of the day, you're looking at fundamentals of stocks, and the fundamentals are determined by the underlying commodities to a large extent. So if you understand commodity markets well, it is, and also currency markets, then it is very easy to understand equity markets also. And for internationally referenced commodities, even you don't need to understand currency markets because you have an inbuilt hedge of currency in internationally referenced commodities like gold or silver.
Correct. So I'll come to you, Gyanshekar. आप almost more than 30 years से हो commodities market में, so you understand commodities better than all of us. अभी जो हो रहा है actually, see, winters are arriving. There is always a concern with the crude oil prices. Natural gas में volatility है, base metals में इतना bounce देखने को मिला. Last week हम लोगों ने देखा silver prices went up by 8%. So what's your take? अगर कोई wants to begin their journey in commodities trading or also want to use commodities as a something जो उसको understand करने में help करे equity. So how one should start?
First of all, thank you, Jay, for inviting me. And good to see you, Rishi, again on the panel. And I will try my best to speak in Hindi. कुछ गलती हो गया तो माफ कीजिए. I'm not that fluent in Hindi. फिर भी मैं maximum try करता हूँ. देखिए, first, like Rishi said, all the asset classes are interconnected. ऐसा नहीं है कि commodity एक separate asset class है, equities एक separate asset class, bonds एक separate asset class. Is सब में clear connectivity. There was a time when all of them were looked at in isolation. लेकिन अभी नहीं है. Clearly, everything is moving in tandem. There are similar factors affecting all the asset classes at the same time. कुछ एक non-farm payroll data आने वाला है कल. That is going to impact across asset classes. It's not something which is specific to equity markets or forex markets. So the interlinkages are extremely common, and what we have to understand is something that connects all the markets is the dollar. And right now, what is happening to the dollar clearly is having an impact across the board in all the commodities. So, आपको कुछ direction मिलना चाहिए, especially in commodities. Just have to track the dollar, because any demand supply related information that affects commodity prices is currently thrown out of the window. It is just purely the dollar and the direction from dollar which is supreme at this point in time. Simply because of the inflationary expectations that is going on. Itna inflation बढ़ गया. Central banks are trying their best to rein in on inflation. Now, आपको ये बात clearly समझना चाहिए कि there is a US midterm election which is coming in early November 8th. एक बहुत बड़ा event risk हो सकता है market में, especially for the dollar, because currently the Biden government has a very thin majority in the Senate. A US midterm election is not like the big election. It's a midterm election for the Senate. So they have a very thin majority in the Senate. Suppose a midterm election में हार गया, then they will not be able to pass any new bills. They have to go to the Republicans for more and more money for any policies. So the government will become like a dummy government. It will become a deadlock there, and because of that, the dollar will start weakening. Because the US economy is going to be coming into a deadlock. उसका असर डॉलर में पड़ेगा. That will see a major fall in the dollar, and this is my expectation going forward. This is what I think will span out as things go. As things stand right now. Why I think Biden might lose is because he has not been able to control inflation. If you look at the common man in the US, he's paying a lot for gas, he's paying a lot for electricity. Mortgage rates have gone up like anything. As interest rates are rising, the mortgage rates, the housing interest is continuously rising. It's all affecting the common man. So there's a good chance that he won't win because of this, which is why I think he's trying to foist some cases on Trump because it's not working. Indian political drama jaisa ho gaya abhi. Now that financially things are not working, now the attention is turned towards the opponent. and they're trying to put cases on him, and he's of course coming out with cases because he is the most important opponent. So the main thing to understand is, we are getting into a phase full of risk events. One is on the economic side and two on the geopolitical side. So Biden is trying his best to show that he is winning this Ukraine war. That is one way he can win this election. वो भी नहीं हो रहा है, वो एक स्टैंड ऑफ जैसा हो गया रशिया और यूक्रेन में, and with the American intervention और भी problems बढ़ रहा है, and we are getting into a winter where there is this problem of oil which doesn't flow into Europe and US. Inflation uncontrollable ho jayega. Already it is at a 40-year high, and the Fed, the only way left for Fed is to bring down commodity prices is to keep rising interest rates. Now what will happen is that if they keep rising interest rates, naturally the appetite for demand for most of these commodities will come down, and people, instead of putting money in risky asset classes like equities, commodities, forex, वो बैंक में जाके डालेगा, because अभी तक dollar का interest rate was somewhere near zero for the last 10 years because of so many reasons. अभी तो बढ़ रहा है, and now it is like substantially higher. So somebody who's seen zero interest rate, who is getting around 3.45 or 4% and expectation of higher interest rate, there's a lot of money being locked into the financial system. None of it is coming out for spending. So all this is clearly hinting that there is going to be a major turnaround happening very shortly. But लेकिन अभी के लिए dollar strength is prevalent across the board, across the economies. And if dollar is going to be stronger, that's going to have a negative impact on commodities, which is what we're seeing right now. So we're going through this phase where many of the commodities, metals especially, have been battered because they're demand-centric commodities, based on which economic weakness or strength is determined. Energy is somehow, finding support at lower levels. Even though OPEC has started cutting production to, prop up prices, itna reaction nahi ho raha hai, simply because of the demand problems that are there. And look at precious metals. Now, precious metals, because of the rising yields, have been falling and falling, but lately it's suddenly found some support because of the, the geopolitical situation, and possible default by some banks that are being talked about. And so the risk appetite has returned back. The safe haven status has returned back for gold and silver. And moreover for silver, simply because it is underpriced compared to gold. Or gold-silver ratio both favorable hai silver ke liye. And because of the undervaluation that silver is right now, it is a very, very attractive sort of an investment at this point in time, which is why we saw the spike. लेकिन बहुत सारे uncertainties है आगे जाते हुए, but always opportunities are available in adversities only. So many funds would take advantage of this adverse situation and to start building some positions in certain commodities. And I believe it could be mostly in precious metals and largely to do with some of the base metals. Because base metals are complex. Each metal is moving on its own fundamentals at some point in time. So suddenly there are going to be shutdowns and there are going to be problems in certain metals. You might have a supply response. And prices are going to be at these low levels for a long time. Mines will start cutting production, like how OPEC is cutting production. Metals will be same ho jayega, because it will be unaffordable for mines to keep producing and selling at a loss. So that supply response will kick in anytime soon. So ये सब देखते हुए overall मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि अभी के लिए एक negative trend तो अभी चल रहा है, which could end very soon, maybe at the end of the month, maybe as we go closer towards the US elections. So anyone who is watching commodity markets, दोनों event को ज़्यादातर attention देना पड़ेगा, which is the US midterm elections and the coming economic data from here up to the midterm elections.
Yeah. Thanks, Gyanshekar. So, जो समझ में आया, the insight which Gyanshekar has shared is, दो तीन ट्रिगर हैं जो आपको एज ए कमोडिटी ट्रेडर ध्यान रखना है. वन इज November 8 को यूएस में मिड टर्म इलेक्शन है. So Biden government, like any other politician, he is also quite concerned कि भाई उसको जीतना है. Right? So what are the things which can trigger? एक हो सकता है crude oil prices he will try to pull down. Second, प्रेशर बन रहा है फेड के ऊपर. वी हर्ड अबाउट द स्टेटमेंट सेइंग कि यूएन बोल रहा है फेड को कि आप इंटरेस्ट रेट मत बढ़ाओ. सो दीज आर ऑल पॉलिटिकल ड्रामाज. ठीक है, तो ही विल ऑलवेज ट्राई टू एक्ट सो दैट कि इंटरेस्ट रेट और नहीं बढ़े, इन्फ्लेशन कंट्रोल में रहे. सो दिस विल क्रिएट सम काइंड ऑफ अनसर्टिनिटी. क्रेडिट स्विस का एक इशू है जो मार्केट में ऑलरेडी है. देन देयर इज अनदर बैंक व्हिच इज आल्सो इन न्यूज़ कॉल्ड डीबीएस. तो ये सारे सिचुएशंस अनसर्टेनिटी पैदा करता है, और जब अनसर्टेन मार्केट रहता है तो द ओनली सेफ हेवन बाइंग व्हिच ज्ञानशेखर वाज आल्सो रेफरिंग इज गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर. तो उसमें बहुत अच्छा मूवमेंट देखने को मिल सकता है. यू मे सी क्रूड ऑयल प्राइसेस कमिंग डाउन क्योंकि पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर है, यूएस में इलेक्शन है सामने. तो इस टाइम पे जब आपका इक्विटी मार्केट बहुत वॉलेटाइल रहेगा, सो यू ऑल्सो नीड टू लुक फॉर ऑल्टरनेटिव टू डाइवर्सिफाई. और कमोडिटीज आज इंडिया में काफी मेच्योर्ड स्टेट पे है, लिक्विडिटी बहुत है, पार्टिसिपेंट्स बहुत ज्यादा है, ऑप्शन इन एमसीएक्स इज डूइंग रियली वेल. तो एज अ ट्रेडर आपके लिए एक एवेन्यू ओपन है जहां पे आप ऐसे हाथ उठा के नहीं बैठ सकते हो कि आज मैं अनसर्टेन मार्केट हो गया तो क्या करूं. राइट, यू हैव टू लुक बियॉन्ड एंड कमोडिटीज कैन बी योर गुड रेस्क्यू पॉइंट. I think with this, there are a lot of questions coming, so I'll hand it over to you, Rahul. So if there are questions लेते हैं, so users को भी अच्छा लगेगा. Yeah, over to you.
Sure. Sir, हमारे पास थोड़े YouTube live पर से questions आए. First question is, what's your view on commodity options?
So Rishi, would you like?
She will be the right. Yeah.
I can't give any views. I mean, I don't understand the question. First of all, what view has on commodity options? All I can say is that they are different instruments as compared to index futures or normal futures, because in futures the risk and reward is equal. So if you buy a future and the price goes up, you will gain. If the price goes down, you will lose. In an option, if you buy a call option and the price goes up, you will gain, but if the price goes down, you will not lose. The only thing you will lose is the premium paid upfront. Similarly, in a put option, if you buy a put option and the price goes down, you will gain, but if the price goes up, you will not lose. You will only lose the upfront premium paid. So options are, a risk management tool where you cap your losses and you maximize your gains. Where on the other hand, you have futures where you have both sides equally open to you.
Yeah, just to add, Rishi, if may I, जो I think question का meaning ये हो सकता है कि options commodity different कैसे है in terms of liquidity, in terms of trade timings and all. So if you'd like to throw some light on that.
तो कमोडिटी ऑप्शंस में यदि आप ट्रेड करना चाहते हैं तो कमोडिटी ऑप्शंस आपको जैसे इक्विटी ऑप्शंस करते हैं, सिमिलरली कमोडिटी ऑप्शंस भी हैं जो सुबह हमारा मार्केट 9 बजे खुलता है और रात को 11:35 या 11:55 डिपेंडिंग ऑन 11:25 या 11:55 डिपेंडिंग ऑन द डे लाइट सेविंग्स तक चलता है. और इसमें जैसे जो एक्टिव कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स काफी हैं जिसमें क्रूड है, नेचुरल गैस है, गोल्ड है, सिल्वर है और 3 बेस मेटल के भी ऑप्शंस हैं, तो इसमें आप ट्रेड कर सकते हैं. ये जो ऑप्शंस हैं क्रूड और नेचुरल गैस के कैश सेटल्ड हैं. बेसिकली के ऑप्शंस कैश सेटल नहीं, ऑप्शंस डिवॉल्व करते हैं फ्यूचर्स पे, एंड वंस आपको फ्यूचर्स पोजीशन मिलता है तो क्रूड और नेचुरल गैस के ऑप्शंस कैश सेटल फ्यूचर्स कैश सेटल होते हैं, एंड गोल्ड और सिल्वर और बाकी बेस मेटल्स के जो ऑप्शंस डिवॉल्व होते हैं फ्यूचर्स पे उसके बाद वो डिलीवर होते हैं.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have second question with us. So the perception is that equity and gold has negative correlation. Recently observed that both are moving the same direction or moving independently. Does old hypothesis of equity gold has changed? And if yes, then why?
You want to take that, Jay?
या सी देखिए क्या होता है ना कि जब कोई भी कोरिलेशन, एज यू आर राइट, कि देर इज ऑलवेज ए नेगेटिव कोरिलेशन, बिकॉज जब इक्विटीज मार्केट नहीं चलता है, क्राइसिस लाइक सिचुएशन होता है, तो यू ऑलवेज फाइंड दैट गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर मूविंग अप. बट शॉर्ट टर्म में आपको ये भी ध्यान रखना जरूरी है कि वोलेटिलिटी जब होता है ना, तो इट मूव्स यूनिडायरेक्शनल. यू ऑल्सो नीड टू टेक इन टू अकाउंट कि जो आज जैसे ज्ञान शेखर भी बता रहे थे कि डॉलर इंडेक्स आज बहुत ही प्रीडोमिनेंट रोल प्ले कर रहे हैं इन एनी एसेट क्लास मूवमेंट, तो आपको वो भी ट्रैक करना बहुत जरूरी है. बट इन द लॉन्ग रन फंडामेंटल ऑलवेज होल्ड्स. अगर आपका इक्विटी परफॉर्म नहीं कर रहा है तो यू विल ऑलवेज फाइंड गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर डूइंग बेटर. शॉर्ट टर्म में बिकॉज ऑफ डॉलर इंडेक्स यहाँ पे वो इक्वेशन कभी कभी बिगड़ जाता है. सो दैट्स एन अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर यू एज अ ट्रेडर, उसका आप एडवांटेज ले सकते हैं.
Thank you, Jay sir. Sir, one of our users is asking, can you please share a light on like how the metal sector is headed and like what's your view on that?
That's for me.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
See, metal sector as a whole is right now undergoing pressure simply because इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ रहा है. मेटल डिमांड तो नेचुरली नीचे आएगा because you know metal demand essentially is linked with the economic weakness and strength. Why? क्योंकि real estate market, projects, new infrastructure projects, ये सब में metals are used in a big way. Now when in an inflationary environment, most of these projects will either be put on hold, and because of that, a lot of demand for this will go down. Now, ab dekhiye, China's property sector is going through a lot of issues, which is why China, which used to be big buyers of metals, has completely come down to a great extent, though they are buying to some extent even now. वहां पे जो रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर का प्रॉब्लम अभी चल रहा है, इसके हिसाब से मेटल डिमांड इज लैगिंग लाइक एनीथिंग. चाइना इज द लार्जेस्ट कंज्यूमर ऑफ मोस्ट ऑफ दिस मेटल्स. वहां से बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है. नेचुरली देयर इज गोइंग टू बी अ वीकनेस इन डिमांड, व्हिच इज व्हाट वी आर नोटिसिंग राइट नाउ. और ओवरऑल मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक हेल्थ भी इतना अच्छा नहीं है मेटल डिमांड के लिए. So metals are undergoing a lot of pressure, and we're coming from a situation just 1 year back because of the supply situation. Prices have reached peaks. Copper almost $11,500 all-time highs. But many of these metals have gone to all-time highs because of the pressures that we have seen, freight problems, logistic problems, supply problems. And now it has crashed from all the way there. Simply because of this. You have to understand the biggest buyer, China, is undergoing a lot of problems. वहाँ पे COVID अभी भी जारी है, and still things haven't completely come to normal. So that is the reason why metal sector is having such problems, deep problems. For this to recover, for metal sector to recover, first of all, macroeconomic situation should change, inflation should come down, interest rates should stop going up. So all this should happen potentially for a turnaround, and the dollar should start weakening. So till then, this weakness in metals will only continue. Any upticks will be short-lived. मतलब जब भी rallies मिल रहा है, people will sell into it continuously. So that is why you're seeing any upticks are unable to withstand, unable to sustain. वापस नीचे आ रहा है. मेरे ख्याल से और भी नीचे आने का chances है till the next FOMC, which is in November, that's coming up. Till then, this weakness will persist.
Yeah, just to add, थोड़ा सा और एक दो पॉइंट्स मैं ऐड करना चाहूंगा. एक तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ये देखना कि चाइना इज वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट प्लेयर इन मेटल सेक्टर और मेटल एज अ कमोडिटी. चाइना में रिसेंटली यहाँ पे अक्टूबर में ही शी जिनपिंग का आई थिंक फिर से यहाँ पे री इलेक्शन होना है. सो दैट विल बी अ वेरी बिग ट्रिगर. अगर वो री-इलेक्ट होते हैं तो उनका स्टैंस ऑन हाउ ही वांट्स टू सी चाइना ग्रोइंग फर्दर, वो बहुत क्रूशियल फैक्टर रहेगा बहुत सारे कमोडिटीज और इक्विटी मार्केट्स के लिए. सो दैट्स एन इवेंट आपको बहुत क्लोजली वॉच करना है. सेकेंड, एज अ ट्रेडर आपको अगर देखना है कि भैया बेस मेटल में मुझे क्या ट्रैक करना है, सो पीएमआई डेटा जो आते हैं उसको आप बहुत क्लोजली ट्रैक कीजिए. सो इकोनॉमिक कैलेंडर आता है, यू कैन फाइंड इट ऑन forexfactory.com. वहां आप ट्रैक करो, पीएमआई डेटा अगर खराब आता है सो दैट्स अ सिग्नल कि बेस मेटल प्राइसेस विल गो डाउन, क्योंकि इकोनॉमी अच्छा परफॉर्म नहीं करेगा तो मेटल नहीं चलेगा. सेकेंड, यहाँ पे चाइना का जो डेटा आता है उसे ध्यान रखिए. चाइना अगर कोई वहाँ पे इंडस्ट्रियल आउटपुट डेटा पॉजिटिव है या यहाँ पे कंज्यूमर कॉन्फिडेंस डेटा पॉजिटिव है, तो ये सिग्नल है बेस मेटल्स अच्छा परफॉर्म कर सकता है. और जीडीपी ऑफ एनी इकोनॉमी, प्राइमरली आप यूरोजोन की कोई भी इकोनॉमी देखो, यूएस का जीडीपी देखो और इंडिया का जीडीपी देखो. अगर जीडीपी में ग्रोथ है मंथ ऑन मंथ या क्वार्टर ऑन क्वार्टर, सो इट्स अ गुड साइन कि इकोनॉमी ऑन ट्रैक है और बेस मेटल्स अच्छा परफॉर्म करेगा. Yeah, Rahul.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Gyanashekhar, sir. Sir, one more question is there. Actually, user wants to know how the dollar prices affect gold and silver.
So, Gyanashekhar, if you can throw some light.
See, first of all, we have to understand that most commodities physically, not in futures, physically are traded in dollars, which is why it's a reserve currency. Most of the world central banks have dollar as a reserve currency. Why it has an impact on commodity prices, specifically gold and silver, is simply because dollar by interest rate, whenever it starts rising, the yields in dollar will start going up. And the opportunity cost of holding gold also increases. So gold, we should understand that it's a zero yielding instrument. Matlab, interest, in India we get very small interest, but overseas you don't get an interest while holding gold. It is just a potential, appreciation people look at, and an inflationary hedge. So because of that, when dollar interest rates increase, then there is no incentive to hold gold against the dollar rise or the interest rate rise in the dollar, which is the reason why they are correlated inversely. Lekin whenever you see a event risk that's happening, global event risk, away Russia or because of the credit source economic problem, then everything starts going up. The dollar also becomes a safe haven, gold also becomes a safe haven. So there are times when this inverse correlation might not work. So आपको ये ध्यान में रखना चाहिए, especially when some global event risk happens, or geopolitical risk or economic risk related event, then both will start moving up, which is why it's very important to keep tracking the correlation between the dollar and gold very closely. It's not that it will work 100% all the time. So there are times when it diverges. But the main reason why it's correlated is simply because it's traded physically in dollars, and yield wise, when the yields rise, then it has a negative impact on gold. So, which is why it's very closely linked.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Rishi, sir, we have a question for you. Can we expect for low ticket size or entry price of commodity futures? As the user believes that it will be very helpful for retail traders to participate more in the commodity markets.
Sure. So there are two ways of reducing the ticket size of commodities. In options, the way is not only to reduce the contract value, but also to reduce the duration of the contract. So, if there are shorter duration contracts, naturally the premium would reduce. So, for example, we are looking at certain contracts where we could launch shorter duration contracts in options. And as and when we get the regulatory permissions, we will definitely look at that. In terms of, launching smaller denomination contracts also, like minis in base metals, etc. Again, we are working on that, and if as and when we get regulatory approval, we'll definitely look at launching those.
So Rishi, public demand hai. You need to bring it fast.
I mean, yes, we are seized of the matter and we are working towards it.
Yeah, sure.
I'd just like to add something to that, Jay. Actually,
Yeah, sure.
investors, should understand that options market is a very, very huge market overseas. उसमें थोड़ा jargon है, थोड़ा complicated है initially. लेकिन as time goes, once you get used to it or see the benefit, naturally the volumes are going to pick up. It is very, very important for an investor to first of all understand what kind of an investor you are. Are you a risk-averse investor? Are you a risk-taking investor, or you have what sort of a risk, medium sort of a risk you have? Based on that, you can choose options. So if I'm a risk-averse investor, maybe naya ho commodities, I want to test waters, I think options would be the best thing to do. Like Rishi said earlier, usme, losses will be very, very limited, and the chances of you to make profits becomes much more. Which is why, especially for investors, retail investors, risk-averse investors, मतलब आपको इतना margin नहीं है trading के लिए, but still you want to participate in commodities. I think options is the best way to start, and ideally recommended for small investors who have this problem with taking a huge risk. As it is, commodities is looked at as a risky asset class. But with options, it's an amazing opportunity for investors to participate. And I'm sure Rishi is doing a great job by launching more and more of these products. It's going to be very, very beneficial for investors, and more awareness and inducing investors to start looking at it will only increase volumes going forward. But my own recommendation is for retail investors. See, I work with a lot of retail investors in the country. There are money control game changers product, and there are lots of subscribers. I mean, thousands and thousands of subscribers, and all of them are asking for options. So far, they've been only trading in naked futures. So the interest is growing. मेरे ख्याल से यहाँ से और भी बढ़ेगा interest. And for investors, especially when huge funds with money at the disposal come, and trading becomes very volatile, the best way to participate is take advantage of options. उसमें risk बहुत कम है, and it's the best way to participate.
Thank you. So we have a user who wants to know more about the cotton and basically the impact of cotton prices on textile companies. So whether a decline in the cotton prices is beneficial directly to the textile companies, and what will be the future looks like for cotton.
I'll take the Jay, or you want to?
Yeah, sure. You
can. See, first of all, cotton in the last 1 year, especially during COVID, post-COVID, demand itna बढ़ गया, and there was a problem in the US. Genuinely, there were supply issues, and the demand was so strong that prices shot up. India may surprisingly, cotton crop, which normally turns out to be a good crop, had a problem because of supplies. There were late rains. Because of that, a lot of supplies took a hit last year. And because of that, we've seen such huge prices. And then now we've come all the way down to almost, nearly 40-50% from the highs. Simply because things are becoming normal. I think supplies are becoming normal. More than that, काफी demand कम हो गया, both in the domestic market and the export market. See, Europe is the largest buyer of apparels. And Europe is going through such a huge problem because of the Ukraine situation. वहाँ पे order इतना कम हो गया exports के लिए. And because of that, the demand has come down. The overall global demand for cotton has come down like anything. But what we have to keep in mind is that the domestic prices are coming closer to MSP, the government determined MSP levels. And therefore, the chances of it to go down from here is very, very limited. तो आपको रिस्क रिवॉर्ड रेशियो देखेगा तो बेस्ट वे is to or the best opportunity is in cotton right now. The downside is very, very limited, and as we go forward, as things change, as demand picks up, you might see a rally in cotton in the coming months, not immediately but post October. So the current fall in cotton prices are an opportunity as far as the textile industry goes as a whole, simply because the weather problems that are happening every year now, it's become a norm, a aberration nahi hai. It's not like something which happens earlier, suddenly weather is different. Now this La Nina and this unusual rains have become a common phenomenon because of the way we're destroying nature. So that is going to have an impact on all the crops, including cotton, going forward too. So जो low prices अभी आ रहा है, especially below 60,000 a candy for forward months, is an amazing opportunity because 55,000 is the MSP. So anywhere from here, I think the textile industry should basically use this opportunity to position themselves in the longer term, which is between April to June. Again, when the season, when the planting season starts, again weather problems will start. So मेरे ख्याल से यहाँ से downside है लेकिन बहुत limited है, and one should start using that as a long-term opportunity, as a textile industry, as an ecosystem.
Beach mein I just like to interrupt a minute. We have invited certain guests from the Chittagong Stock Exchange, from Bangladesh also, because they have a lot of interest in understanding about the functioning of commodity markets, and they are in the process of setting up a commodity exchange there with collaboration with us. And so I would just like to acknowledge their presence, and since this was going to be a wonderful platform for sharing of commodity views, with Gyan being here and Jay being here, so I thought it would be apt for them to be here, so just welcoming them also.
Yeah, thank you, Rishi. And we, on behalf of Dhan, also would like to welcome them. If you're listening, it's our pleasure that somebody from out of our country is listening to our webinar. So I hope that this will provide some insight and value to you. Thank you so much, Rishi, for that.
Thank you. We have a question for Rishi sir. So the user want to know how actually is the premium decided in the future contracts? Like, can you please shed a light on that, Rishi sir?
There's no premium on futures contracts. There's a premium on options contracts. In futures, there's something called contango and backwardation. Depending on the availability of the material, the interest cost, demand, supply, etc., the contracts of futures can be in either contango or backwardation. When there is contango, which means that the next month will be trading slightly higher than the current month. If there's a backwardation, which means the next month will be trading lower than the current month. And there are a host of reasons why this could happen. Normally, contracts are in contango, not backwardation. Only when there is a shortage of material or there's some extraneous factors, then you see backwardation in certain contracts. And premium in options are decided basis of a host of factors, to put it with, and you could understand them by studying options Greeks. But to explain it in a very simple manner, there is time value of money, which is one part of the premium, and then there's the risk premium, which is the another part of the premium. So if you combine these two, then you will get the bulk of the premium. Of course, there are various other factors which I don't want to get too technical about, but the risk premium and the time value form the bulk. But of course, there are other factors also. Gyan can add if he thinks,
Thanks, Rishi. The premium and discount, like he said, backwardation contango, it's a jargon in the market. But what you have to understand is it all depends on the supply and demand going forward. आगे जाके supply demand कैसा होगा, उस हिसाब से premium हो सकता है. So it's always decided based on supply and demand largely. But there are times when, suddenly, if somebody is hugely short, like what happened to crude oil prices a couple of years back, then suddenly, you could see it even going to negative. But that's very, very, very rare. But in normal circumstances, a premium and a discount is largely determined by future demand and supply and related numbers only.
Thank you. Thank you. So few of our actually users are like a lot of users are asking about like how do you think the crude oil segment will work and in the coming weeks and your views on it.
So Tyagarajan, this is for you.
Yeah. Crude is again, sitting in a sort of a situation where there is weak demand because of poor industrial activity. Central banks are raising rates. So demand is coming down for crude, which is the reason why OPEC is now trying to talk prices up. But problem kya hai? They also know that unlike in the past, whenever they've done a cut, prices have rallied very sharply. That might not happen now because of this poor demand, which is going to be a cap on the upside. Now, as it is, OPEC has been falling short on their targets to cut production. So it's very likely that what they're doing now is only putting a floor on prices, and US is determined to see crude prices go down. So they're again talking about releasing strategic reserves, and there are all these consuming countries are also determined to see prices go down because they want to see inflation come down. So a global strategy hoga, central banks, all the central banks, putting more pressure, increasing interest rates, simply to see demand comes down and the crude prices start coming down. Now, crude oil price is the most important factor when it comes to inflation. The way things are working is the whole world is now working against crude oil prices to go down. So there are lots of efforts that are being taken. And because of that, crude में इतना ज़्यादा rally होने का chances नहीं है. In spite of all the risky events, in spite of let's say even Russia does something, escalates the tension from present levels, फिर भी इतना ऊपर जाने का chances नहीं है crude में. I think it's going to stop, find a lot of resistance in the $97 to $100 range. Which I think in MCX levels would be somewhere close to 8,000 rupees per barrel. So that's the sort of scenario right now. Though short-term factors might pull it up, winter demand bhi hai, some uncertain supply, uncertainties are there. But predominantly now, markets narrative is changing to demand destruction from the supply response or the supply threats which we have seen so far. So मेरे ख्याल से near term to short term में थोड़ा prices बढ़ने का chances है, but overall there's a lot of negativity as far as crude is concerned. Governments are trying to rein in on crude prices in every possible way, so there is no way that crude prices can rally much higher or see the same peaks what we saw last year or the year before based on these event risks and supply risks. So, to put the answer in a nutshell, short-term strength, medium-term weakness.
Okay. Gyanshikar sir, can you also put a little highlight on like how to read actually the crude oil inventory data for users like who are just getting started with the markets and trading in crude oil?
Yeah. See, the US has a strategic reserve, so they build reserves. I think India has also started building reserves now. China has started building reserves. Everyone has learned their lesson because crude oil shock, especially consuming countries, के लिए बहुत negative हो सकता है. So there is an inventory numbers which is released by US every week. The Department of Energy releases the inventory situation. At any point in time, it tells how much of strategic reserves US is holding, both on crude and on products. So naturally, if the inventory increases, then there is a good chance that prices will come down. But if the inventory goes down, there is a chance that it will. It's a very simple equation, but it's not as simple when it comes to trading. But just for understanding, the Department of Energy numbers that come out every week is very important, simply because you get to know what is the inventory US is holding. And based on that, prices fluctuate to a great extent.
Thank you, Gyan sir.
Rahul, just to add here, अगर किसी को crude oil inventory, if somebody has to watch, दो तीन चीजें हैं for the user to look at. आपको week on week compare करना है. Say crude oil inventory data every Wednesday को आता है 8 p.m. India time, or during winters or daylight saving time पे it comes at 9 p.m. India time. अगर प्रीवियस वीक से इस वीक का क्रूड ऑयल इन्वेंट्री लो है तो दैट मींस दैट देयर इज लेस रिजर्व अवेलेबल, और दिस शोज अ सिग्नल कि ये बुलिश है. अगर क्रूड ऑयल इन्वेंट्री आपका लास्ट वीक से इस वीक में ज्यादा है या एक्सपेक्टेशन जो है उससे अगर एक्चुअल ज्यादा है, सो दिस कैन हैव अ नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट ऑन क्रूड ऑयल प्राइसेस. आपको इसके साथ और एक चीज ध्यान रखना है कि अगर कभी भी इन्वेंट्री आता है उसके उस टाइम पे यूएस में कुछ सर्टेन हरिकेन सीजन्स होते हैं. जैसे जनरली अभी लास्ट वीक एक हरिकेन फ्लोरिडा में आया, तो उसको भी वॉच रखना जरूरी है कि इन केस आपके पास अगर हायर इन्वेंट्री आया है लेकिन उसी वीक में यहाँ पे हरिकेन एक्सपेक्टेड है, सो प्राइसेस मे नॉट फॉल, प्राइसेस में मूव अप ऑल्सो. सो कीप ट्रैक ऑफ क्रूड ऑयल इन्वेंट्री. अगर पिछले वीक से या एक्चुअल एक्सपेक्टेशन से एक्चुअल लो है, सो इट शोज सम काइंड ऑफ पॉजिटिव सिग्नल फॉर क्रूड ऑयल प्राइसेस एंड वाइस वर्सा. और आपको जो हरिकेन सीजन है उसका ध्यान रखना है. विंटर्स में जनरली डिमांड बढ़ता है क्रूड ऑयल का क्योंकि यूसेज ज्यादा होता है वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में, सो दैट ऑल्सो हेल्प्स इन सपोर्ट ऑफ प्राइसेस.
Thank you. So we have actually a common question to all the guest panelists here. User is asking कि commodity market जो है वो काफी लंबा चलता है एक normal market से. It starts from 9 a.m. till it goes on 11:30 a.m. How can a commodity trader manage his work-life balance?
So Rishi, first आप बताओ, what's your take on this?
See, normally the markets are more volatile in the evenings because of the international markets opening up, especially in Europe and USA. So, you have to decide. And for a trader, every trader has their own trading style, finds their own niche, and decides what to trade, how to trade. So, if you are a trader who places a few trades in a month, then it's very easy. If you're a trader who does active day trading, then you have to pick what time of the day you want to trade, etc. if you want to have that work-life balance. End of the day, it's entirely up to you how you want to trade. Globally, markets are open for 23 hours. In India, it's just for 15 hours. So globally also traders do manage their work-life balance, and I'm sure you have to just work out what suits best, what suits you best, right?
Let me just add to that, Jay.
Yeah, sure.
As a young trader, my hair is all gray now, but as an young trader, I was very, very fond of trading in New York. That was during my days in the bank. So I used to live in Navi Mumbai, and bank was in Nariman Point. So the trading used to go on right till 1:30 in the night, and the last train I would take back home. And there are many days when I don't know how many times the train has gone up and down. I'd just be sleeping, be completely off. So it does add a lot of stress in the if you want to trade all the moves intraday. It just doesn't work like that. Over a period of time, you learn that you don't need to be glued to the screen. As long as you have your strategies in place, as long as you follow certain disciplines of stop losses, adhere to risk management strategies, आपको इतना stress नहीं होगा. That is the most crucial thing which I have learned over a period of time. That you have to look at it as another market where you find opportunities. And yes, unfortunately, the time zones are against. In India, it goes on till the night. But as long as you place the orders and just don't worry about it, don't be glued to the screen. Let it get triggered. Either the stop is triggered or the targets are triggered. Either way, it's fine. There's a nice saying in Bhagavad Gita called Samatvam Yoga Uchate, which means that you remain the same both in loss and profit. It's difficult initially, but then over a period of time, as you mature as a trader, you start accepting these stop losses, and naturally the markets will start rewarding you. Which I think is what investors initially who are very, very keen to test waters in this market, trade in this market, should keep in mind that have that discipline, or naturally you'll start making money over a period of time.
Yeah, just couple of things I would also like to add here is आपको देखिए market commodities are a long duration market, right? Morning को 9 o'clock start होता है, it closes at 11:30, sometimes at 11:55. Okay, so what you need to have very a clear thing is आप मतलब full time trader हो तो आपको देखिए liquidity participation का भी ध्यान रखना है. मोस्ट एक्टिव कमोडिटीज मार्केट कब होता है? जब यूरोपियन मार्केट्स, यूएस मार्केट दोनों ओपन होते हैं और अपना एमसीएक्स ओपन रहता है. दैट आइडियली स्टार्ट्स इन द इवनिंग अराउंड 6:30 7 o'clock. उस समय आपको डेप्थ मिलता है, लिक्विडिटी मिलता है, यू आर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड द प्राइस वोलेटिलिटी. मोस्ट ऑफ द कमोडिटीज जिसमें दिन में मूवमेंट होता है वो प्राइमरीली ड्रिवन बाय डोमेस्टिक न्यूज फ्लो और यूएसडी आईएनआर मूवमेंट पे रहता है. तो आपको अगर एक्चुअल में छोटे टाइम के लिए ट्रेड करना है, इफ यू आर अ ट्रेडर, तो आइडियल टाइम इज टू स्टार्ट एट अराउंड 6:30 to 9:30 10 o'clock. सो अगर आप इक्विटी ट्रेडर भी हैं और कमोडिटीज ट्रेडर भी हैं तो इवनिंग में कमोडिटीज मार्केट ट्रैक करना आपको और हेल्प करता है, बिकॉज इक्विटीज मार्केट बंद होने के बाद बहुत सारे न्यूज फ्लोज जो आते हैं कमोडिटीज मार्केट में वो आपका डिटरमाइन करते हैं कि नेक्स्ट डे इक्विटीज मार्केट किस तरह बिहेव करेगा. से फॉर एग्जांपल कोई यूरोपियन मार्केट नीचे खुला, डाउ जोन्स मार्केट नीचे ट्रेड कर रहा है, सो यू और आपका अगर ओपन पोजीशन है इक्विटीज मार्केट में, सो यू कैन टेक अ कॉल कि नेक्स्ट डे हाउ द मार्केट इज गोइंग टू ओपन, और आपको स्यूडो हेजेस मिल जाते हैं. आई कांट से इट कैन बी अ परफेक्ट हेज. जैसे आपका अगर इक्विटीज मार्केट में लॉन्ग पोजीशन है, यू फील डाउ जोन्स बहुत क्रैक कर रहा है, कोई ऐसा नेगेटिव न्यूज आ गया है, so it on probability this may have some kind of positive trigger for gold and silver, so you can accordingly have positions in that. और बेस मेटल का कुछ खराब न्यूज आया है, आपके पास ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल है, आप अगर फ्यूचर्स में नहीं करना चाहते हो तो वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस जरूर है. यहाँ पे आपको आपका प्रायोरिटी सेट करना है. अगर आप ट्रेडर हो सो यू शुड गेट इनटू अ मार्केट जहाँ पे वहाँ आपको डेप्थ मिले, लिक्विडिटी मिले और एंट्री और एग्जिट इजीली मिले. सो विच जनरली हैपेंस इन द इवनिंग टाइम.
Rishi, I just Jay, I wanted to just add one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
Very, very important. As far as the equity market and commodity market relationship goes, there are cycles which are very important. Right now, you have the metal cycle. Now, please understand the way metal prices have fallen are extremely good for consuming companies which consume these metals, which means their profitability is going to increase a lot going forward, because the raw material price which they would have bought at very high prices earlier, now they're going to buy at very, very low prices. So that P&L will only have a very positive impact. And always, if let's say commodity price increases 5%, assuming it increases by 5%, the corresponding companies which use these commodities, their stocks, the profitability will increase more, and therefore the chances of those stocks going up are much more than 5%. It could be 50, 60, or even 100% sometimes. So the raw material price having an impact on individual stocks is very important. I'm not an equity expert. I cannot suggest any individual companies. But as an investor, आप ये भी ध्यान रखें जो commodity price which is consumed by companies which are listed in the stock exchanges, especially when prices are so low, it has a major impact on profitabilities of these companies going forward. Back to Rishi.
Thank you, everyone. We have a last question actually. The user is asking, how is the option premium decided, and like what are the criteria for it, and like who decides it, the buyer, seller, or the exchange?
Rishi, please.
Yeah.
Okay. See, the price of anything is decided where demand and supply meet. Similarly, for options also, the premium is decided where demand and supply meet. The premium quoted by the writer. So the writer of an option is taking, it's like, let's take the example of an insurance policy. When you go to an insurance company and you say that I have a car worth 10 lakh rupees, I want to insure it, they will look at the condition of the car, they will look at the risk, they will look at your history of how many accidents you've done with that car. They will see whether there's any claims in the past few years, etc. And overall, they will do a risk assessment. Once they do a risk assessment, they will quote you a premium, and you are free to accept it or not, or go to another company, right? Now, let's take that example, though it's not a perfect example for options, but let's take that example that tomorrow, today you go and say that, okay, I want to buy a crude option, say, for example, 7,000 rupees call, and you say, what is the premium? Now, the person writing that option will say that, okay, in the next 1 month, there is, some data coming, there is some elections happening, whatever, there's some hurricane season, whatever, I don't know so much as Gyan and Jay would know. So, there are so many events happening, and he will build in the risk premium for all that into the premium quoted, and he will quote his premium. Because the option writer is only earning the premium, he will lose if the bet goes in favor of the buyer. So the option writer would want that event not to happen. So if you buy a 7,000 call, the option writer is basically hoping that the price never goes above 7,000. And basis that, he will quote a premium, assessing what are the chances of the price going above 7,000. So, and maybe some other writer will come and say, so for example, and hypothetically, someone quotes 100 rupees, and the other one could feel that, no, maybe I can do it at 99. So he will put in a quote for 99, and so on and so forth. So that is how your sell side gets populated. Similarly, in the buy side, you feel that, no, 99 is very high, I want to buy at 90, so you put a 90 quote, someone puts a 91 quote. Similarly, so that's how an order book gets created. And where the trade happens is where someone agrees that the quoted premium is fair enough for him to pay. And that is where demand and supply meet. And let me just tell you one small thing. In my experience in the markets, demand and supply is nothing but fear and greed. Fear is supply and demand is greed. So where greed and fear meet, you have the market price.
Very well said, Rishi. That's a nice way to sum it up. Just for academic interest, if people are interested, there is something called implied walls, which is the way of statistically calculating implied volatility. उस हिसाब से भी option pricing हो जाएगा normally, apart from demand supply. So there's implied walls, you can Google and check. So that's the formula for implied walls, volatility. So that also will give you an idea how options are priced.
Right. Yeah, thanks Rishi and thanks Gyan Shekhar. Just to add few things here. देखिए ये फर्स्ट ऑफ इट्स काइंड वेबिनार है, एज राहुल ऑल्सो मेंशन्ड स्टार्ट में, कि जहाँ पे ट्रेडर्स का क्वेरी हम लोग डायरेक्टली एड्रेस करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. एंड दिस इज अ सीरीज विच वी वांट टू कंटिन्यू, और every fortnight you will have one of the experts coming. So we'll have people like Gyan Shekhar, who has got immense of experience, almost of 3 decades in commodities market. So it's been our privilege, Gyan Shekhar, that you could take your time out and enlighten our audience here. So ये
Pleasure was
trend
all mine. Yeah. Pleasure was all mine.
या श्योर, थैंक्स. सो ये ट्रेंड हम लोग आगे भी कंटिन्यू रखेंगे. तो आप अगर कुछ भी ड्यूरिंग योर ट्रेडिंग जर्नी, अगर आप कहीं भी कोई डिफिकल्टी फेस कर रहे हो, तो यू कैन ऑलवेज कम ऑन दिस वेबिनार विच विल बी ऑन एवरी फोर्टनाइट. हर 15 दिन में हम लोग करेंगे अलॉन्ग विद MCX. So this will help not only understanding commodities for you, it will also create some kind of knowledge base जहाँ पे आप अपने क्वेश्चन शेयर कर सकते हो, अपने डाउट्स क्लैरिफाई कर सकते हो. सो इंडिया में देखिए कमोडिटीज बहुत ही नेसेंट स्टेज पे था, और जिस हिसाब से ग्रो कर रहा है, थैंक्स टू रेगुलेटर एंड थैंक्स टू MCX फॉर ब्रिंगिंग सम इनोवेटिव प्रोडक्ट्स. वी वांट कि ग्लोबली जैसे अगर कमोडिटीज इज 3 times ऑफ इक्विटीज मार्केट, इंडिया में भी ये मार्केट बहुत डीपली ग्रो करे. एंड एज वी हैव मोर पार्टिसिपेंट्स, इट्स अ विन विन सिचुएशन फॉर एवरीवन. वी आर ऑल्सो एन इकोनॉमी जो एग्री डिपेंडेंट है, कमोडिटी डिपेंडेंट है. आप कमोडिटी एवरी एस्पेक्ट ऑफ लाइफ में डील करते हो, चाहे आप ऑफिस में चेयर पे बैठे हो, आप खाना खा रहे हो, यू बाई गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर फॉर योर फैमिली, योर वाइफ, और यू हैव क्रूड ऑयल प्राइसेस जो बढ़ जाता है तो आपके सब्जियों के दाम बढ़ जाते हैं, राइट. सो यू आर टच्ड बाय कमोडिटीज एवरी टाइम, एंड इट्स आर endeavor that along with MCX that the participation should increase, और जितना रिटेल में ये पहुंचे उतना सबके लिए अच्छा है. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone here, and over to you, Rahul.
Thanks, Jay sir. Thank you, Rishi sir, and thank you, Gyanashika sir, for taking out your precious time and joining us for today's webinar. As Jay sir mentioned, we'll be coming up with more such webinars on commodities. We would like to enhance our trading community as much as we can by sharing knowledge from top experts like you. For all the users, you can trade on our Options Trader app and Dhan app seamlessly across all the commodities. The account opening charges is free, account maintenance charges is also free, and it only takes like a day for you to open your Dhan account. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot for taking out your time.
Thanks, Gyan. Thanks, Jay. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.